So here coming to the Azure services. So we have Azure Compute Wise, we have Azure VM, so which provides the virtual servers for us. So in the Azure virtual missions, we're getting high scalable virtual servers. The operating system is Windows and Linux, and it's in order to host our web servers, application servers, or we have database servers, middlewares. For that, we can use virtual missions. So then, like one more serverless kind of feature in the computing is where we can deploy our applications, but here in this scenario, we don't have any servers in the backend. It's a serverless kind of technology. Directly, the developers can deploy their code into Azure functions, and their the application logic is running. Normally, in order to run this kind of application logic on the servers, we used to set up application servers. Okay, but if I go for Azure functions, it's a complete serverless kind of feature. Then the third method of deploying the applications we will use Kubernetes kind of service. So for microservices, to deploy the microservices or container orchestration, we have Kubernetes. Okay, so Kubernetes is also is getting popular for microservice kind of deployments. So this is another method. So what I'm trying to tell is, say in the future we don't have only servers itself, which are getting popular. Serverless like Azure Functions kind of services also is getting popular, and even for microservices, Kubernetes kind of services also is getting popular. Then another PaaS-based service is there from Microsoft, that is Azure App Service. Automatically also we can deploy our applications. So even we have the Azure App Services also we have. Coming to the storage, so in the storage we have blob storage. So in the blob storage is nothing but object level storage. So in the blob storage, what is that? Like what we are going to store is it's an object level storage. We can store our data in the blob storage, and from anywhere we can access. Mostly we are going to store unstructured kind of data. So that's maybe media content or maybe styles like a CSV kind of things, or maybe we can store documents, logs also we can store. All these we are going to store in the blob storage. Okay, so then we have disk storage. So disk storage is when we create a VM, the backend the VM data should be persistent, because if I shut down my VM or if I stop my VM, I want my data should be persistent. Normally we have in the local hard disk would be there, but in Azure we are getting that from the disk storage. So here we have premium or standard kind of SSDs. We have SSD solid state drivers or HD hard disk drivers also we can use. Mostly we are preferred to use SSD drivers. Then file shares also we have. Normally, like locally we need to keep lot of NFS or Windows file shares or NFS kind of servers we need to keep. But if I go for Azure files, all the developers or all the employees can uh, mount their file shares, and we can keep, instead of using file servers, very high scalable, high available file shares also is available in the storage accounts. And for data analytics or for big data kind of analytics, we need to store the data. So we'll have huge data we need to process. All the data we are going to keep in the data lake. In the Azure data lake storage, we are going to use. Then coming to the databases, I said in the VM we can install database, that is IaaS solution, but we require good expertise on the database configurations, all those. But if I go for Azure SQL database kind of thing, it's a pure PaaS based solution. So with the PaaS, what is the advantage we are getting is automatically patching, scaling, backups, and high availability, all these can be taken care by the provider itself. In our use case, that is Azure is the provider for us. So that is the Azure is the provider for us. So now here we have like a complete, it's a PaaS-based service. So what is the difference between installing a database on VM or Azure SQL database? What is the difference?
So if we install that database manually, we need to install that monthly patches on that Azure VM.
Yeah, and the
Upon
Azure VM, all that high availability, backups,
and
scaling, all these we need to take care.
sometimes this cluster might be issue. That Windows cluster also having some issue with the.
Yeah, it's all operational wise, it's little tough. But if I go for a PaaS-based service,
We don't have an issue that because of Azure will take care that one.
Azure mostly will take care, and it's simple also. And Azure always recommend to use PaaS-based services compared to traditional infrastructure kind of things. And they have one more Cosmos DB also. Cosmos DB is a NoSQL kind of database. Like in the Azure SQL or Azure MySQL server, Postgres servers, these all these all the like a RDBMS kind of servers or SQL kind of structured query language. But some databases are now getting popular. Those are key value kind of or document graph kind of databases. Those are NoSQL servers. Okay, so Azure provided one NoSQL server, that is Cosmos DB. So that is also a serverless kind of thing. Normally, even if I go for a PaaS-based service, Azure is managing all this in the backend servers itself. But if I go for a Cosmos DB, only for the tables itself I need to pay. Okay, and Azure SQL Server, all these are regional level. We have this, but Cosmos DB is global kind of thing. Okay, so for the multiple regions also we can use. Okay, for serverless kind of applications, it's recommended to use
Cosmos
Cosmos
DB.
DB. And just like SQL Server, we have MySQL and Postgre engines also supported. Postgre also is supported. This is also PaaS-based itself. And managed instance, it's a mix of both PaaS and IaaS kind of pieces. So it's a managed instance. Okay, so almost it's a SQL server, but Microsoft itself is SQL server also is the product owner. They have given managed instance also. It's not complete PaaS. We have mixed kind of thing. Then coming to the networking, our own isolated networks we can create in the Azure cloud by using the VNet. Our own isolated networks we can create, our own range of IPs, our own firewall rules, our own routing rules, all these kind of things. And with the on-premises for the hybrid cloud also, we can set up using the Azure VNet. Using the Azure VNet, we can connect. So we need to discuss more on the Azure VNet wise also we need to discuss more. Then already yesterday we discussed CDN, right? Content Delivery Network. So with the CDN, Azure is going to provide huge edge locations. In most of the metropolitan cities will have the edge locations. And once we upload the data to the main server, we need to specify the origin, and that would be copied to all the edge locations. And from that edge locations, the data is going to be rendered to the user. What is the advantage to the user?
Streaming is better compared to
Yeah,
from the
say
origin.
yeah, and it's reduced WAN traffic also.
Yeah.
Because every user, say suppose from Bangalore, yesterday I said the use case, Bangalore users no need to hit Netflix server data maybe in the US. Okay, they can access it from the nearest edge location itself. Why they have chosen the edge locations in the metropolitan cities? Why they have chosen metropolitan cities itself?
So basically, software organizations are
No, no.
It's like latency and bandwidth.
Performance.
Why metropolitan cities is more target users are there. So some lakhs of users are there from the metropolitan cities. In the rural areas, less users would be there.
Got it.
Okay.
okay.
So in the metropolitan cities, we'll have some like more client base is there. So that is the reason they will choose most of the metropolitan cities. But compared to Azure, AWS having more than 450 plus edge locations they have. Those itself may be called as points of presence also.
So edge location is nothing but one region, right?
One small data center. It's not a region. Region is a very big data center.
Okay, okay.
Edge location is a small data center
Center.
just that will cache all the data.
Okay.
That's not a huge kind of setup. So for Azure data center, they're investing uh, some thousands of crores.
Okay.
Okay, so these are maybe small data centers we have. And coming to load balancers, so what is the purpose of load balancer? So load balancer, what load balancer will do is, so load balancer will take user request. So load balancer will take the user request and redirect traffic to healthy instance or healthy VM. Always, what is the purpose of the load balancer is? So now assume I'll tell one use case. Maybe you are using like any website, bank portal. You directly don't hit the web server. In the middle, load balancer will take the request, and always the load balancer will redirect the user request to the healthy VM it is going to redirect. That is the responsibility of the load balancer. Coming to the Azure, we have the different type of load balancers. We'll discuss those detail. But what are the types of load balancers we have is normal, like for the general use cases, we have a load balancer. If I'm using Azure load balancer means this is a network level load balancer, works at layer 4. Okay, so this is the load balancer. This works at the layer 4 it is going to work. Okay, so this is the general load balancer. Okay, then we have at the application level we have one more load balancer, that is application gateway. So at the application level we have one load balancer, that is application gateway. So what is the difference between load balancer and application gateway is load balancer works at layer 4, application gateway works at layer 7. What are all these we'll discuss. The third one is we have traffic manager. So traffic manager and front door we have. So these are the four types of load balancers we have. Depends upon the client requirements. We need to suggest the best load balancer what client need to use. So we need to suggest the best load balancer what client need to use. So these all the load balancers also practically will create. So we require good expertise for AVD also. By default, they're providing traffic manager, front door. We no need to create. AVD itself will provide all those for us. But for our applications, we need to provision all this. Okay. Any doubts on this? So here we have the traffic manager we have. The traffic manager is also one type of load balancing itself, but it's integrated with the DNS. It's a DNS based load balancing, and it's a global level. That means not only one region. Application gateway can do at region level, whereas traffic manager can do at global. Then express route also we required good expertise, but we can't do the lab. We can create this, but one thing what we required is we need a dedicated private connection with the provider. Means from our office to, or from our data center on premises, we have the data center, and with the Azure, like a lot of mobile providers have been tie up, and they're going to provide a dedicated lease line with that. Okay, so and it's we have two solutions how to connect with on-premises infrastructure with the cloud. Okay, so with the one method is site to site. Second method is express route. So site to site will use traditional internet itself. Okay, but some of the companies won't prefer to use in the public internet. In the data centers, they're setting up express route. So with this, what is the advantages? With
So
that, what advantage?
dedicated bandwidth and provide a security.
Yeah, so provide the security compared to internet. Some large scale enterprises prefer to go for express routes also. So site to site, on premises we have one VPN, and in Azure also we'll have one VPN. We're establishing site to site. Okay, so site to site is data center to Azure. We have one more point to site. So with the point to site, what's happening is I don't want to give to complete my data center. I want to give the connection only to one developer laptop or one database. I'm not giving to complete data center inside with the complete on-premises site. I'm giving that's maybe a data center, and Azure also I'm assuming my VNet or that is one site. But in the point to site,
So particular user you have to provide a VPN access.
a particular device we have, to that we are going to give the access. To that device we are going to give the access we are going to provide. Okay.
So in the express route, how the connection is established, sir?
So we need to take that connection from the provider.
So ISP from the ISP.
Yes, yes. They'll give the list of providers who will provide this support. Like depends upon your on-premises location. If Hyderabad is there, Hyderabad list of providers Azure will give. If it is Mumbai, if we are connecting from Mumbai, they'll give the list of providers who will support this
Express route.
dedicated connection for us. After that, we need to create express route from Azure.
Okay, okay.
Okay, so that's we need to tie up with that provider, and they will give that. Already they have like a uh, uh, like a Azure also have been supporting that. Even AWS also they're supporting.
Okay.
Okay, then for the IAM, like we have Azure Active Directory. We need to synchronize. There is a say now Azure Active Directory. The new name is Entra ID. Now under Entra ID, Azure is going to bring all these Active Directory, all this. Like we can synchronize on-premises Active Directory, and we can create single sign-on, federation kind of services, role-based access control, multi-factor authentication. All our Azure enterprise users in our company, all developers, application permissions, all this we can manage through Azure Active Directory. For the administration purpose, we required very good expertise on the local on-premises AD and Azure AD. We required good expertise. Then one more very important feature, key vault. Say you have a sensitive details like maybe database passwords, otherwise certificates, tokens, or we have key pairs, all the data, key pairs, all these directly we shouldn't share to client. We need to keep in the vault. That vault ID we need to pass. Okay, so directly we shouldn't share those sensitive details to the client. We need to use we need to
Vault
use
feature.
yeah, Azure Vault we need to use. Okay, so definitely we need to have the good expertise on the Vault for storing the sensitive details. And the second one is we need to rotate those vaults also. What is that meaning of rotation? Like maybe we'll have a company policy. After 60 days, we need to rotate the keys, or after 80 days, that depends upon our company policies. We need to rotate the keys also. Okay. Then we have Azure Security Center. So definitely, like it's a unified complete for Azure services. It provides the threat protection, intelligence, threats. If anything happening, it intelligently identifies, like monitor the on-premises resources. Like it's all provide the security to your Azure resources. It's a central hub kind of thing for the security. Definitely, security is also part of our job role. Okay, say infrastructure security, resource level security, and unauthorized user access. All these also we need to monitor. Okay, and definitely our applications will have some compliances. That standards also we need to manage. Okay, then like here we have a Sentinel also is one of the Azure security service. Like it's a AI based threat protection. All these also we can use. This is also we'll discuss. Then application gateway I already said, right? It's a layer 7 load balancer. Application gateway, can you tell me it's a region specific or global? Is it region specific or global?
Application gateway.
Application gateway is region level.
Okay.
Okay. And front door, what is the main advantage is front door is a global service and it integrated with the CDN also. Okay. So globally, all over the globe, whenever the users access the application, front door integrated with the CDN, and it accelerates the content delivery. That means it optimizes the content delivery from the nearest CDN based on the user request. So if the user access from US, from the US nearest edge location, automatically it will deliver the content. If the user is from Europe, from the Europe, like maybe London, if you access from the London edge location, it's going to deliver. Like this, it's going to be like a traffic manager is DNS base, whereas front door is CDN base. CDN base, global load balancing. So then all over the globe, my application need to be delivered. Maybe if I have LinkedIn or Twitter. So these kind of solutions we want to deploy, then the best method is Azure front door kind of service we use. If it is a region specific service, I don't have all over the globe, I don't have. Okay, only in Europe I have my client base. Only in North America I have. Then we may go for like a region specific we can go. Then API management also, like once we develop the APIs, most of the APIs we can expose using API gateway. So these all like analytics, we require basic admin level knowledge we required on these services also. And coming to Azure AVD, so we required even Azure AVD also required like in order to create all this, we required good knowledge on virtual missions we required. Virtual mission scale sets. What is the concept of virtual mission scale sets? I will explain. So now here we have VM. VM will is provided. What VM is providing is
It's providing
computing.
the
Yeah,
computing resources,
computing
so
resources.
CPU, memory.
Okay, then what is the meaning of auto scaling? So what is the meaning of auto scaling is we can scale up or scale down our resources. We can scale up or scale down our resources. Okay, so for that purpose, we are going to use the auto scaling we are going to use. Okay, in the auto scaling, what is going to happen is we can increase our resources. We can increase or reduce our resources we can perform. So we have two types of auto scaling here. One is horizontal auto scaling and the second one is vertical auto scaling. So we have two types. One is a horizontal auto scaling and the second one is vertical auto scaling. In the vertical auto scaling, what we are doing is we are increasing VM resources. Okay, that means I'm not increasing the count of my VM, the same VM, but I'm increasing my VM resources. At what level I'm increasing is maybe at the CPU level or memory level or disk level, or it's maybe IOPS also, like input and output per second. These kind of uh, inputs I'm increasing on my resource level. I'm not increasing my VM count. Okay, so that is called as vertical scaling. In the horizontal scaling, what we are doing is depends upon the load, we are increasing more number of we are increasing more number of VMs we are increasing. Yesterday I said one use case. Say suppose if Amazon or Flipkart is conducting 1 billion sale, then they may go for 5,000 VMs. Okay, that means they're not going to keep only one VM, they're not keeping. Like this here in this horizontal auto scaling, we are increasing number of VMs. Okay, for that, what is the service from Azure is VM SS. That meaning is VM scale set. Okay, so what is the meaning of VM scale set? Using the VM scale set, are we going to use vertical scaling or horizontal scaling? Using the VM,
Horizontal only.
it's a horizontal auto scaling. So using the like VM scale set, okay. So we can define the conditions. Say suppose assume I have five VMs. In that five VMs, if my CPU reaches 60%, I want to scale up to 6, 7. Like this, we can configure. We can define the minimum number of VMs and the maximum number of VMs. We can define the minimum and maximum number of VMs by using the VM scale sets. By using the VM scale sets, we can increase. Okay, so that is also one of the important service, so which comes under horizontal auto scaling, and Azure even supporting vertical auto scaling also. For every VM, when we are creating the size of the VM. That size we can increase. Then automatically your CPU, memory, all these are getting increased. Okay. So here we are using for automatic scaling. Okay. So why we need to go for this is in order to provide the scalability, because nowadays the workloads are very unpredictable work, like pay like load is coming to those. So in order to handle that unpredictable load, definitely we need to go for VM scale sets. Sometimes I have more users, sometimes I have less users. If I maintain always more VMs, the expenses are very high. It depends upon the load. We are scaling up or we are scaling down our VMs. Okay. So then definitely we required VNet also, we required very good knowledge even for our AVD also. We need to design our networking, all those. Hence we required good knowledge on the VNet part also. Then with the on-premises setup also, if we want to integrate, we require good knowledge on VPN gateway for site to site, and express route also we require good knowledge. And Bastion host is, so what is the concept of Azure Bastion host, to try to understand? So now here we have a Azure VNet. In my VNet, I have my public subnets and private subnets we have. What is that public subnet and private subnet is? Public subnet resources are accessible over the internet. private subnet resources are accessible only within the VNet itself. Okay, so then I have my one VM in private subnet. I want to access that so this is my laptop. Um, okay, then I have one VM in private subnet. Then without having VPN, I can't connect to that. But I don't have VPN. Still, I want to connect to that. Then we can keep a jump server. In which subnet we need to keep the jump server? Where we need to keep the jump server?
Gem server, we have to put it in the private environment only.
No, that should be in the public subnet. Because first we'll connect to that public subnet VM. Because from the laptop directly we can't access the private subnet. Okay, so that jump server is provided by Azure. That is called as Bastion host. Okay, say, can you tell me what is the use case? You have some VMs in the private subnet, but you can't directly access them. Then you can use the Bastion host to connect to
Private VMs,
private subnets. But where that Bastion host is residing?
public subnet.
In the public subnet that is residing. Okay, so that is the purpose we are using. Bastion host we are using. Okay, so that means we are not exposing that public IP, right? So even in the AVD also, some of the people required Bastion host kind of things also we required. So these all the services before going for AVD, we required good knowledge. And even load balancers, traffic manager, and front door, all these. And even for the storage also, we required good knowledge on the AVD wise also, for the user profiles to store the user data. All these also we required, storage accounts also we required. And for the user profiles, like Azure is using, or now Microsoft solution is FS Logics. So FS Logics also is getting popular every day. In the previously we have roaming profiles, or absence kind of tools we have, but now in the cloud, Azure is providing FS Logics. Even we can integrate FS Logics with the Citrix kind also. But now here from the Azure perspective, we are going to learn. From the Azure perspective, we are going to manage. Okay, so for the configuring all these, and we need to manage any profile related issues, performance related issues, localization kind of issues with the profile we are getting, and definitely we need to optimize our AVD performance also. For that we required good knowledge on the FS logic. And even as we discussed, we need to give the authentication authorization for AVD. For that also we need to go for Azure Active Directory kind of service also. Then we need to have our on-premises data center also. We need to use like a Azure Directory domain service also. We can create to join them to the domain, all this. So for this we are using Active Directory domain services. Normally, locally we'll keep the domain controllers, but on premises we don't want. Then we can use Azure Active Directory domain services. Or if you have on premises, we can synchronize that also with the Azure. And for security of all services we can use, but for AVD wise also we require security center. Then for monitoring wise, so we need to go for Azure Monitor. So we require Azure Monitor. Like so we need to monitor all your VMs, otherwise databases or application level, and even from the AVD level also. If you have any issues, monitoring the performance metrics, alerts can be configured. For all that, we require good knowledge on the Azure Monitor wise. Also, we require good knowledge. Then for the troubleshooting wise at the application level, we need to use log analytics also. For that, if the user are facing any performance issues, or maybe like user sessions are disconnecting, so these all we can use using the log analytics. And most of the automation we can use patching, these kind of things also we can automate using like we can integrate the PowerShell commands or any of the configuration management tools. All these workflows we can integrate with the Azure automation. Then, like for ABD, for all these also for VMs, for databases, definitely we need to plan in the SRE for the backup and disasters we need to take care. We need to have good knowledge on how to take the backups and how to restore if any disaster happens also. We required that expertise also we required for the SRE kind of job roles. So then Azure provided one more service for the like disaster recovery, automatically using the site recovery manager or site recovery. We can configure even for the VMs, databases, for all your complete one region. We can replicate that into like a disaster, like backups, all this we can configure with the site recovery also. This is also very important SRE kind of service. Then cost management, all this also we need to use. We need to reduce the cost and for this we need to use. Then we have one more service is there. So what is that service is trusted advisor. Like we can continuously check the trusted advisor. Azure would be giving some advisors based on our infrastructure. That is up to us whether we can follow or not. But what is the advantage is maybe security wise, performance wise, or cost optimization wise, Azure would be giving us some suggestions for us. They would be analyzing our infrastructure based on our usage, based on the tracking of the resources. Azure will provide some advices for us. So whether we will follow that or not is up to us and our client decision, but we can consider those advices also. Okay, so coming to the hierarchy of the Azure resources. So now like we need to create one Azure account, right? In that the highest level is Azure AD tenant is that. Okay, so now we have here four things. One is Azure AD tenant, then management groups, subscriptions we have, then below to the subscriptions, we have the resource groups. Okay, say in the resource groups, we have the resources. Examples of the resources are like Azure VM, Azure ABD kind of things, or load balancers, SQL, all these are the resources. But we are first grouping them in the lowest level resources to resource groups. And you will have one account that is a subscription. We can have multiple subscriptions also. Those all come under management group. But the highest level is we can keep multi-tenant, multiple subscriptions. Okay, so that's all we can manage from the tenant. Okay, so from the tenant we are going to manage. Okay, so now here the higher level of object is the
Azure tenant.
Azure tenant. Even multiple tenants also we can manage, organization level, all those also. Okay, but tenant is the highest level of object or container. Okay, below to this we have the management groups. Okay, so these all going forward will understood. Management groups will have multiple subscriptions, all those. Okay, so then definitely at the multiple account level also we need to use Azure policies. That means I have 20 subscriptions, I have maybe for different billing units I have. All that also we can control centrally, we can manage. And the policies also I can enforce at enterprise level, but I may have different applications. Okay, and we have the different billing units for each project kind of thing. We have Azure subscriptions would be there. And when you are created your Azure account, you are getting a free subscription. Okay, using that subscription itself, we are going to manage. Okay, so then all the billing quotas, all those also for each subscription, you can set up that. Okay, so then finally, very, very important is resource groups. So we are going to create the resource groups. Under the resource groups, similar kind of project wise or maybe team wise, otherwise maybe for the like uh, environment wise, dev environment resources, one resource group. This is up to us how we are going to organize. But what is the advantage with the resource group level is I can give the permission. Say suppose I have one development resources, I don't want to give the access to the QA team. That kind of level of permissions we can enforce, that role based access kind of things we can control by using the resource groups. Okay, so here while creating the resource group, you may give the region, but it's not a region level thing. And under the resource group, we are going to keep the resources. The lowest level of object is the resources. Okay, so now organization wide entity is Azure AD tenant. Okay, then management groups, like managing the subscriptions under one structure, and we can enforce the policies, all those also we can do from management groups. Then we have the subscription. So subscription is one billing unit. Then we have the resource groups. After that, we have the resources. Okay, so Azure regions and available zones, I will explain in the tomorrow session. So we'll start with the Azure VM, all this. So what are the advantages, why we need to go for available zones, all this. I'll explain in the tomorrow session. We'll discuss more on the resource group itself. So what is the resource group is? It's a group of logically container of group of resources for our flexibility based on our projects, our like uh, flexibility. We are going to keep the resource groups. Okay, so then we can control the permissions, RBAC, billing, tagging, all this we can do. Okay, but is it region based? Means not. We can have even multi-region resources also can be kept if you have any requirement in the resource groups. Okay, so it's just like it's a logical container itself. Okay, so why we are going to use is like a single unit, we can manage those resource groups. And if we have the multiple resource groups, I can give the different kind of permissions. Say suppose for US resources, I don't want to give the access to Indian admins. Okay, that US all resources I'll keep in one resource group, and all Indian resources I'm going to keep in one resource group, and I'm going to configure at the resource group level. I'm setting the RBAC kind of permissions. Okay, then like even we can see the billing wise one resource how much Indian resources are, how much billing they're making. Like this, I can see the cost management also. And if deleting maybe resources also, like I want to delete complete resources. Say QA environment, I created a lot of resources. I want to delete as a single shot. That kind of things also is can be managed by resource group level. And I want to have a tagging, that means maybe project wise or region wise, even we want a proper tagging is required. So what is the advantage of tagging the resources is we can filter the resources, or we can search the resources in, so just like hashtags we know, right? In Instagram, what is the advantage is, or in the Twitter we have the tweet ID, like in the tweet, based on that we can search or filter the resources here. Hence, in the enterprises, always it's a best practice to use the proper tagging for the resources. Is one of the best practice to use tagging for our resources. Okay, and all those resources can be unified, monitoring is can be done, and it's easy to organization level using the resource groups. Then can you tell me the order of resources? First one is tenant. Under tenant we have,
Under tenant subscriptions are
no, no,
there.
management groups we have one more.
Yes, yes.
Management groups below, we have the subscriptions. After that, resource
Yes,
groups, resources.
resources.
Okay, so this is just a logical entry. first definitely we need to create a resource group itself. If you create an account, we are getting tenant and management groups and subscriptions we are getting a free subscription. Okay, on top of that we are creating the resources, the resource groups, then we are creating a resources on that. Okay, so these all like we'll discuss from tomorrow onwards. Tomorrow onwards, I'll take more sessions also, and I'll share more videos. Those all finish parallelly. So first we need to discuss VM, VNet, AD, storage accounts. These all if we finish, then we can understand AVD in a better way. Okay.
Okay, sir.
Any other doubts?
No, thank you.
Okay. Sure. Thanks. Yeah.